today?
I am good. How are you doing, Erin?
Pretty good. I'm excited to be here to be sharing another story with you.
Yeah.
All right, so I am just going to get right into it.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, which is pretty much all of you, my husband is quite the Civil War buff. We've been together for about 13 and a half years at this point, and I have to say that I have learned way more about the Civil War from him than I ever did in school.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, I've also seen Ken Burns' Civil War series many more times than the average person. Like,
I've never seen any of it.
there's parts of it I feel I can quote, or like when it's coming up, he's watching it in the background, I'm like, oh, here's what's coming next. Why do I know that? Not normal, but it's okay. I mean, it's very well done.
Yeah, you're being educated.
Yeah. There's worse things that could be happening. So when we were at the library, I was looking through all the different, haunting, different paranormal books to try to find an idea for something to research. He was there with me, and the title Haunted U.S. Battlefields really jumped out at him, if you can imagine.
Yeah, as it would. And in fact, I think I've seen that book and thought of him.
Yeah. And in his defense, he's actually suggested a couple times that I do an episode on the Antietam Battlefield. And every time I'm like, no, I don't really want to do that. But then I finally gave in. So,
Is that what we're doing?
yes. So here we are. I will say, I don't know why I didn't agree to it sooner, because from a research standpoint, it is really handy to have someone with that type of like encyclopedic knowledge on hand. It cut down on a lot of stuff I had to read. I knocked this out just in one evening, So for those of you who don't regularly watch Ken Burns' The Civil War, let me just summarize it for you.
Thank you.
The Civil War began in April of 1861 and ended in April of 1865. And the Battle of Antietam took place in 1862, so kind of towards the beginning. So I'll get you up to speed on how things were going at that point.
Probably not well, is my guess.
I mean, it was war. In general, things were looking pretty good for the Union as late as June of 1862. But then when Robert E. Lee took command of Virginia that same year, he really starts doing a fair bit of damage.
Yeah.
As much as he and the cause that he fought for obviously suck, he was very good at his job of being a general. Over the next few months, he is able to really thwart several major advances by the Union Army, and it's basically the darkest hour of the war for the Union, and there was a legitimate concern that either foreign powers like England or France or Northerners who were opposed to the war would just demand that it would, be ended and that the Union would lose. So Lee decides he's going to invade Maryland in hopes of delivering that final blow and win it for the Confederacy. Maryland is a Union border state, but it is also a slaveholding state, same as Kentucky. And there were a lot of Confederate sympathizers there, especially kind of around the Baltimore area. So meanwhile, Abraham Lincoln has determined at this point that the war is no longer just about reuniting the states, but that slavery absolutely has to go. And he needs to find a way to do that while managing not to lose a war. So it's safe to say that tensions were high.
And also not lose the support of the people who have previously been backing him, some of which are abolitionists and some of which are wealthy business owners who don't want to get rid of their slaves.
For sure. Yeah. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
So that's just a little summation of where we are. The Battle of Antietam occurred on September 17th, 1862, and it holds the record for the most casualties in a single day out of all the Civil War battles and all of American history.
Oh.
About 23,000 soldiers were either wounded, missing, or dead on both sides of the battle.
In one day.
In one day, about a 12-hour period, actually.
Woof.
Yeah. So Antietam is near Sharpsburg, Maryland, along the Antietam Creek. Imagine that. Now, during the battle, the Union suffered more casualties than the Confederates, but it was actually a huge turning point in the Union's favor. And the battle itself gave President Lincoln the confidence to then issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which then discouraged the British and French governments from recognizing the Confederacy.
Oh.
So it's kind of like a lose the battle, win the war situation. Although
was it why did that work out? Yeah, why did that work out in the Union's favor to lose more people? Was it like an optics type thing?
Yeah,
or was it?
Yeah, I think it was just like because the South didn't like just run away with it. It was like, oh, okay, like maybe we can do this. Let's leverage.
Like the South put everything they had into this battle, and they still didn't completely trounce the Union.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, and just the fact that then by denouncing slavery, freeing the slaves, all of that, the British and French governments aren't going to then recognize the Confederacy and be like, oh yeah, we're here for this, what these guys are doing. So that helped a lot. Otherwise, they would have come in potentially, with money and been able to really bankroll the South, and who knows what would have happened. So following a defeat at the Second Battle of Bull Run, General George McClellan moved the Union Army to Maryland, and they moved to an area that had been recently vacated by Confederate troops. Now, I will say that the history books really shit on George McClellan, and I am contractually obligated through marriage to clarify that he wasn't the best, but he doesn't necessarily deserve all the shit he gets. And the number of times I've had this explained to me, like not in a mansplaining way, but just like I think he forgets that he tells me, and he tells me again.
Just wants to make sure you don't forget.
Yeah. So the TLDR of it all is that when the Union troops moved to Maryland, they found some cigars that were like wrapped in paper. That paper turned out to be Special Order 191, which was basically General Lee's plan to invade the North. Like somebody, they had it in their satchel to deliver to him, and they fully dropped it, and the Union found it. So McClellan was convinced that Lee had more men than he did, which actually Lee did not. McClellan had more men. So he chose to take time to plan his next move as opposed to immediately just running after Lee. Now, of course, people say that if he had, maybe the Union would have won in 1862. We could have saved ourselves several years of war. Maybe that's true.
Yeah.
Shoulda,
woulda, coulda.
Yeah. I think it's really easy to kind of armchair quarterback this thing 160 plus years later.
Yeah. But when you're working on the information you have, and you're responsible for the lives of the men under your command.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to fault the guy for playing it safe.
Right. I can understand being quite literally gun shy after getting my ass completely handed to me at the Second Battle of Bull Run. So, yeah, I'm going to make sure I get all my ducks in a row before I attack, because this next attack could be the last one. I could lose the whole thing, I don't want to do that. And apparently, more recently, what scholars and historians and things are saying is that McClellan wasn't even given that Special Order 191 until that evening. So all things considered, he moved relatively quickly, but also carefully. So it's not like he was the one standing there picking up the paper. Yeah. That was just some private or whatever. And then they had to find him.
Hey, free cigars.
Yeah.
Hey, can you read? Do you know what this paper says?
Right. Yeah. So then it had to weave through all the people, make its way to him. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Today, the Antietam Battlefield is part of the National Park System, and I've now been twice, most recently this past fall, and I do have some of his photos to share with you, so we can post those on our socials.
Okay, and love to hear that.
Love a picture we know that we are allowed to publish. In terms of the high points that you want to see on the battlefield, you've got Dunkard Church, the Bloody Cornfield, Burnside Bridge, and the Sunken Road. You're already in for Bloody Cornfield. I've sold you, yes. So I'm just going to kind of run through each of those a little bit. Dunkard Church is the first one, and this is where...
Please spell Dunker.
Dunker.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like there's a D at the end.
Well, in my head, I was like, okay, I know it's probably spelled Dunker, but in my head I was thinking of like Dunkirk.
Oh, yeah. That would have been a weird coincidence if there had been two. No, Dunker. So Dunker Church, where Confederate soldiers hid, they hid behind the church, and then they were able to fire on Union troops as they stepped out of the cornfields at dawn. More than 25,000 soldiers fought for about 4 hours around that cornfield area, and control of that area changed hands multiple times throughout the battle. Mm-hmm. And apparently you could...
Also, just because I like to shit on the Confederacy, can we talk about the cowardice of hiding behind a church to shoot people?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. So apparently you could cross parts of the cornfield without touching the ground because of all the bodies.
Ew.
Yeah. And that's just one little 4-hour snippet of this battle.
A third of the day.
Yeah. So then we have Burnside Bridge, which is very beautiful. It's like a stone bridge. I mean, it was beautiful back then too, just not,
covered in blood.
Yeah. When there wasn't a war there, gorgeous. So at Burnside Bridge, we had about 500 Confederate troops stationed there, and they were able to prevent Union General Ambrose Burnside, the sideburn guy.
I love that you say that like I know exactly who you're talking about.
That's who sideburns are named for. He had some fucking epic sideburns.
Okay.
I've attended...
Learn something new every day.
I've been at a whole presentation about him. This is a whole thing for me. So they prevented Burnside's Union troops from crossing that bridge for almost 3 hours. It's not a big bridge. The Union did finally take the bridge and force the Confederates to retreat, but that delay in them taking the bridge did allow some additional Confederate troops to arrive at Antietam. They had been marching up from Harper's Ferry.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's...
So you've been to this bridge?
Yes.
I understand this was 160 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, weather is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But can you see, bullet holes or cannon damage or anything in the stone of the bridge? Not
in the stone that I've noticed. And I mean, at the, with the trees at this, there's certainly witness trees there. Mm-hmm. But, it's up high. Yeah, trees be growing. On the note of Civil War weather, would you like to borrow one of Jerry's books about Civil War weather? I know there's at least one.
When I said weather, I meant erosion.
Yeah. That just it triggered
There's got to be at least one cannonball divot,
Yeah, probably. I'm sure.
3 hours of fighting on one bridge.
And not a single shot hit the bridge. They were terrible. No.
They're all really low and shooting up.
Through the little, things under it where the creek can go through.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there you go, guys. You didn't have to try and take the bridge. You could have just waded through the water. Just climb to the other side.
Guys, come on. What are you thinking?
This is why we need women in war.
I have said that for years. I'm fucking fighting on the bridge. I'm just going to swim. So for kind of the bulk of this, I'm going to focus on the area called the Sunken Road.
Okay.
And the Sunken Road divides 2 farms, and it has split rail fences on either side of it. And people call it the Sunken Road because it was literally worn down below the surface due to heavy use, erosion, etc. Mm-hmm. And one of the photos I have is a really good sort of far away picture, and you just see, yep, that road be sunk.
So it was called that before the battle?
Yes.
Okay.
So during the battle, Confederate soldiers were essentially able to use the sunken road like a trench and remain...
So it's sunk pretty deep.
It's not nothing. They remained relatively protected while firing at Union troops as they approached. Right, that is the sunken road.
Oh, yeah.
It's noticeable.
Cool. Yeah, it's almost like it's between 2 hills, kind of. But that's cool. It looks like you can still see the tracks from the wagon wheels almost. Nice.
So, Confederate soldiers hiding down there in the trench, they remained pretty protected while they were firing at the Union troops as they approached. Mm-hmm. Now, eventually, Union troops were able to get a vantage point, allowing them to then fire down into the sunken road, basically turning it into a death trap.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yep. A survivor later described it as like shooting animals in a pen.
Or fish in a barrel.
Yeah. So for somewhere between 3 and 4 hours, thousands of men were firing at each other just at point blank range. When it was all said and done, about 5,500 soldiers were dead or wounded there at the sunken road. It was later described as the road of death and a ghastly flooring, because again, all you were walking on was bodies.
I mean, what do you do with that many bodies?
Mass graves.
Yeah, but I mean, 5,000 bodies. Yeah. The amount of digging I can't imagine.
Yeah. The bodies were literally like sometimes several feet deep, just stacks of bodies. And since that day, the road became known as Bloody Lane.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. That's kind of like I said, the high points of things that you definitely want to see when you're at Antietam. I have to tell you about one particular regiment from Antietam. This is the 69th of New York, and this was part of the Irish Brigade. Okay. And the group, as you may guess from the name, was composed largely of Irish immigrants. Mm-hmm. They actually brought their own priest with them. Oh, as you do.
Handy.
Yeah, just a travel priest. They brought him, to say mass on the Sabbath, as well as before battles, taking confessions and administering last rites when necessary.
Mm-hmm. For a regiment of mostly Catholics, that sounds clutch.
Right? Yeah. They were also called the Fighting 69th, known for their ability to tackle tough missions. Mm-hmm. And one war correspondent said, when anything absurd, forlorn, or desperate was to be attempted, the Irish Brigade was called upon.
Oh my God.
So...
send in the Irishmen.
Yes.
They're crazy enough.
They were well known.
Good Lord.
So, obviously, Antietam... sunken road, the Irish Brigade shows up in full force, and they were chanting a Gaelic battle cry that they were known to chant, Fa a Bala, which means clear the way. Fittingly, this brigade had a green banner, and over the course of the battle, it fell multiple times. They actually lost a total of 8 color bearers, which, if you don't know, is the person who carries the banner and the flags and stuff. They lost 8 of them.
Am I thinking of something else? Is it just the drummers that are not supposed to be hit at all? Or the color bearers also?
That I don't know.
But I'm right about the drummers, right?
I think so.
Because
it seems like a real friggin' cheap shot.
Yeah, well, and they were supposed to usually be kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I think that, according to Ken Burns, the youngest Civil War soldier that they know of, I always remember it because he has the same name as my brother. He was like 13, which is wild to me. Yeah. So lost 8 color bearers, and in one of those instances, one flagstaff actually shattered in the man's hands due to intense fighting. So that's something.
Yeah.
According to 69th.net, which I will say is a website I was slightly hesitant to click on. But I can confirm it is a legitimate site.
Somebody snagged that up in the early days of the internet.
Right?
Real quick.
I was like, let's try it. It's for the podcast.
Just don't do it at work.
Yeah. Oh, no, just kidding. So, according to 69th.net, the Irish Brigade's flags were so badly shot up at Antietam that they didn't have flags at the Battle of Fredericksburg a few months later.
Months? Oof.
Yes. So, at Fredericksburg, supposedly, the men placed sprigs of boxwood shrubs on their hats to show the green color.
That's kind of fun, though.
Right? I mean, they sound like a fun group.
Mm-hmm. They sound like a group that just, whatever it takes.
Yes, 100%.
They just embody that.
100%. They fought for 3 hours, and they made 5 charges at the Confederate forces. Now, by the end of the battle at the Sunken Road, the Irish Brigade had lost 60% of its men. Oof. Now, interesting fact, the 69th still exists today, although it was redesignated as the 165th Infantry in World War I when I don't know why, but all of the regiments were renumbered to be like hundreds, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. They needed something to do, I guess. I don't know. There's actually
somebody needed some more paperwork during war. Yeah. That's what that was.
Love paperwork. It kept them from having to go out in battle. Like, I got all this paperwork. I got to renumber everybody. And there actually is a 1940 movie called The Fighting 69th. But that's about them in World War I.
Oh, okay.
I also need you to know that the regimental cocktail, because I know you were wondering.
Sorry, they have their own cocktail?
So saith 69th.net.
Is this a thing? Do other regiments have their, or is this just an Irish thing?
I don't know, but I mean...
Are we leaning into it?
Regimental cocktails is a rabbit hole I'm willing to go down.
It should be a thing.
Yeah, but like California has its official state...
Ghost town.
Yeah. This is our official regimental cocktail. This is our, state dog, like all the things.
A good thing for a regiment to have pride on.
Yeah.
Get competitive with other regiments.
So if you want to make your own Fighting 69th Regimental cocktail, it is 1 part Irish whiskey and 2 parts champagne. And okay. I didn't write this down, but according to what I read, it was like somebody was like bringing the drinks and they basically brought the wrong thing. I think bringing the champagne, and they were like, fuck it, throw it in. Let's go.
I feel like that's how a lot of cocktails and foods and stuff are made.
At this point, let's do it. What's the harm? And it is supposedly drunk at all ceremonial occasions for the regiment. So that's fun.
I can't even imagine what whiskey in champagne would taste like.
I'm not a whiskey or a bourbon person.
Yeah.
So my immediate thought is not good.
So most champagne to me tastes like rubbing alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling myself that the champagne would water down the, I'm going to get so many bourbon drinkers mad at me. But bourbon has such, an overwhelming kind of, to it.
It's going to kind of soften it.
Yeah, it'll soften it. And then the sweetness of the bourbon would cut through
the tartness of the champagne.
Yes. Yeah. So, in my head, I'm not mad at it.
They could be on.
But I'm also making this up in my head as a non-drinker.
We're just going to have to try it.
I don't know if I want to buy a whole bottle of champagne.
Oh, you can get it.
I don't like it.
Get a small one. I'll drink it.
Oh, wait, I do have a tiny bottle of Prosecco.
Close enough. We'll call that the official podcast
there
cocktail.
You go. Oh, we should make one. We'll talk about that later. Okay.
All right. Stay tuned to hear our cocktail recipe from 2 people who
don't drink.
Pretty much don't drink.
It's going to have a lot of juice.
Currently, my cocktail is this chamomile tea because I don't handle caffeine well, and it has benefiber in it because I'm old.
I'm drinking my little Japanese fruit milk things that I drink every episode.
So there you have it. The podcast cocktails.
Strawberry. Last time was white peach.
Yes. All right. Are you interested in hearing about some Antietam hauntings?
Hell yeah.
That is the point of the podcast.
Let's get into it.
All right. It is considered the second most haunted Civil War battlefield after, obviously, Gettysburg. Which
is wild to me that it's got the most casualties and it's not the most haunted.
Well, I think it's most casualties in a single day.
Oh, okay.
I think Gettysburg still wins overall.
How many days was Gettysburg?
More than one.
Miss
2 or 3.
Civil War.
They all run together.
Yeah, I know.
We did go to Gettysburg, but I couldn't pay attention because I had started to get sun poisoning or something. Like my hands broke out in this weird rash and basically we had to leave.
Ouch.
So I didn't learn a lot there, but I powered through as much as I could.
Thank you for sharing your culture with us.
You're welcome for my service. So at Antietam, as you might expect, there are lots of spooky sounds like cannons and gunfire and men screaming in agony.
Great.
Sometimes even crying out specific words and phrases like water or help me.
Does this happen mostly at night or do people hear this in the middle of the day?
It didn't specify either way.
Well, I feel like because you hear about most hauntings happening at night, but if the battle happened during the day...
There's definitely like people seeing things while they're there at the park during park hours. I did not see or experience any of this either time that I was there. So yeah, I think it's probably a mix. There was one story about supposedly a group of reenactors that were like camping out at the sunken road, and it was this whole super creepy thing that I read. And the more I looked at it, I was like, I'm not going to share this because I don't think they would be allowed to camp there overnight. Like, you can't just take a sleeping bag.
They just broke in and
yeah.
snuck all the way over there.
I know you're trying to maintain this site and make it look as accurate as possible. I'm just going to, me and my guys are going to drink beer and sleep here tonight. Like, no.
We're going to bring our sleeping bags.
Yeah.
A little camping stove.
Yeti coolers. And, So anyway, people see apparitions of soldiers in both Union and Confederate uniforms, marching in formation, standing guard, or lying wounded on the ground.
Ugh. What would you do? Like, if I'm walking through a field, beautiful sunny day, and I see a man who looks, assuming it's one of those hauntings where like they look like real people, not, like a see-through ghost or whatever. And I saw a man lying on the ground, presumably bloody. Like, I'm calling 911. I'm going to go ask for help. I'm going to go see if he's okay. Like,
I'm probably going to say like, oh fuck, and then I'm gonna run away.
Yeah, like how long until that ghost fades before my eyes? And am I gonna have to call the police and be like, hey, I accidentally filed a report on a ghost, please don't arrest me?
I'm going to immediately run away. I am not going to run away so far as to allow the ghost to escape my sight. And then perhaps I will make a call from a safe distance.
But what I'm saying is you don't know it's a ghost. Yeah. Especially if you're there like on a day where they're doing reenactments.
I'm not taking any chances.
You've seen Psych, okay? Maybe somebody actually got shot and they need help.
I was watching Psych before I came over here tonight, actually.
Was it the Civil War episode?
It was not.
I'm just saying, I don't know what I would do in that instance. I would just panic.
My instinct is to pee my pants and run away. That's always my answer.
If you saw an injured man, you would just run away?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, good to know.
I mean, probably. If he's like, I would be scared. And maybe I would yell as are you okay? I'm running for help, I promise.
Yeah. If it were the daytime, I would go help. If it were nighttime, I would stay. Not. Yeah, no. Like I always think about those like people who run the scams where like they'll like lie in the road and when you get out to help them. Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah. Well, no, people do that.
Oh yeah.
So, again, it's in an episode of Psych.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a age-old profession.
Yeah, the second oldest profession.
Yes. So some of these ghosts at Antietam are aware of modern people. They might make eye contact before vanishing into thin air.
Which I think is worse than a residual haunting.
Yeah.
Don't perceive me. Bad enough I have to perceive you.
Yep.
Don't perceive me.
Don't lock eyes with me. Or even worse, trying to communicate but making no sound.
Oh.
As I pee my pants, run away.
That's so sad.
When in doubt. There are also instances of unexplained fog, particularly in areas tied to intense fighting.
I'm sorry. I'm just imagining somebody who doesn't know shit about weather and is like, there shouldn't be fog here. This fog is unexplained. This is an unnatural fog.
This fog is impossible, and I think it's possibly fake. Now, this unexplained fog is said to feel cold and carry the smell of gunpowder.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah. There are also reports of electronic devices failing. And finally, some people have strong emotional experiences at Antietam. They're just, all of a sudden they're overcome with sadness and fear and desperation, and they just can't explain why. Just kind of picking up on all that residual energy, obviously.
Have you ever had that?
No. Jerry has, not at Antietam. I forget where he was. He told me the other day, and now I've listed all of these other Civil War things, and I can't remember. And he's not a, ghost person, but he's like, I've definitely felt like a heaviness or a, very seriousness about my surroundings.
I had that once in Tennessee in slave country.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's like, it is like a heaviness. And on the one hand, you're like, oh, this is obvious why I'm feeling this way. But then on the other hand, there's a part of it that like feels unnatural. And you're like, this is not me feeling this.
Yeah. And that's the part I don't think I've ever had. I certainly have been places and felt very sad and moved by everything that happened.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't think I've had that extra component of it.
Although mine specifically might have also felt unnatural because also my feet were freezing cold. Like like the rest of me, totally fine. It was like my feet were in a cold spot and it just felt really weird and off-putting. So that was not helping. How much unexplained
fog was around you at the time?
None.
Interesting. So at Burnside Bridge, people report hearing a ghostly drum roll that like beats out a single cadence before fading away. There's also reports of people seeing like kind of blue balls of light.
Orbs and shit.
Some have also seen Union troops charging across the bridge. And there is apparently the ghost of a young drummer boy, often appearing on the east bank at the bridge. He's said to be around 14, wearing like an oversized Union uniform. And although his drum makes no sound, his arms move in perfect rhythm.
Oh.
Then over at Dunker Church, we have strange light anomalies and shadowy figures regularly photographed at the church.
Oh.
And then women in period clothing have also been seen kind of like searching the grounds around the church. In the cornfield, which I also have pictures of the cornfield.
I don't suppose you found any pictures of these ghostly figures that people have seen?
No. I think this is the...
People don't ever put their pictures on.
I know. Come on, guys.
That's a nice photo.
He's a good photographer.
And what is this statue?
Some Civil War guy.
Okay, that's fair.
We have a lot of photos of Civil War guys and cannons in my house.
But that's the corn. So I don't know. It's kind of tickling me that they still grow corn here.
Yeah.
They're like, this is the cornfield. We need to set the ambiance. We need people to see what it looked like. We're going to grow corn every year. Who do you think farms it? Who sells it? Where does the money go?
It's when we drove one of the routes in the fall, I think some of that is still like private farmland. Now here, the white building in the background is the site of Dunker Church. That is not the original Dunker Church. It was like completely destroyed, maybe burnt down.
Probably from the 4 hours of cannon fire going on around it.
Probably from all those Confederates hiding behind it.
Yeah.
The building was so embarrassed. It was like, absolutely
like, you have
not.
desecrated me so badly. I'm going to peace out. Try again.
All right. I'm going to save some of these photos. So in the cornfield, people report feeling immediate and drastic drops in temperature. Like, we're talking like 20 degrees.
Yeah.
The corn stalks have also been known to rustle violently, even when there isn't any wind. I mean, of course, there can be animals in the cornfield. Yeah. People have seen entire companies of soldiers in the cornfield, as well as a headless Confederate soldier walking the edge of the cornfield at sunset.
Ooh.
Yes.
Do you think this is morbid, but do you think he's like walking normally, like he doesn't realize he doesn't have a head? Or do you think he's like stumbling around looking for his head?
They did not say, but I could see either.
Horrible.
I'm inclined, because it didn't say, like I'm inclined to think it's just like regular walking.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Also,
it must be horrifying to see, like, knowing that corn is taller than obviously depending on when it is taller than a person. Mm-hmm. So like the idea of seeing an entire company of men where you can't even fully see them, but just like their silhouettes moving through the corn. Horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not getting in that corn.
No.
There's also a place I didn't mention before. It's not actually part of the battlefield, but it's just in the area. St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and it was used as a Confederate hospital during the battle, and people have reported hearing screams and sobs coming from the church at night.
Ugh.
And at the time of the war, there was also a place called the Piper House. It was just a residence at one of the 2 farms that bordered that bloody lane. Mm-hmm. Confederate General James Longstreet used the Piper House as his headquarters, and the barn there was used as a field hospital. The house is now a bed and breakfast, and guests report seeing a misty apparition in the doorway of one of the upstairs bedrooms. People also report smelling chloroform and hearing the sounds of amputation saws.
How do you know what chloroform smells like?
I mean,
I don't know.
You've lived a dark life.
I thought you were going to say, I've lived a sheltered life, that I don't know what chloroform smells like.
No, the chloroform smelling people lived a dark life. I don't know. Maybe like you smell something off, kind of, faintly chemically, and then there's some just weirdo there's like, that's chloroform. And I assume that's how that goes down.
And then how do you know that the saw is cutting through bone? I've never considered this in my life, and honestly, after this moment, I don't want to think about it, but I'm going to ask this out loud once. I intimately know what sound that wood makes when you cut through it. What sound does a bone make?
I think it would probably be a mixture of kind of like a wood type sound for the actual bone, but then you're also still going to hear like a wetter. Yeah, but bones
aren't, they're not solid. It's like porous cartilage.
So maybe kind of like that kind of like really thick foam core stuff.
Ew.
Because still solid, but kind of like you hit sort of pockets of air and very uneven, I would think.
We got pool noodle bones in our arms.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
So now let's get on to the spooky goings-on down at the Bloody Lane.
Okay, let's.
Many tourists have reported hearing the faint sounds of gunfire, screams of the wounded men, as well as an overwhelming scent of gunpowder and smoke in the area.
And gunpowder is already just an overwhelming scent. Mm-hmm. Like, it lingers.
Yeah, as does smoke.
But, like, smoke can be blown away.
Yeah,
gunpowder. Pretty quickly. Gunpowder, so like, residue.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of for days.
Others have seen apparitions of soldiers in Civil War uniforms, moving very slowly, perhaps as though they were trying to step around the corpses that covered the ground.
Ooh.
There was another instance in which someone saw a group of men dressed in Confederate uniforms just walking down the road. He assumed that they were reenactors until they disappeared. And then there's a commonly reported ghost of a wounded Confederate soldier sitting against one of the embankments there in the lane, clutching his stomach, and there is blood visible on his uniform.
Again, what would you do?
I feel I've made my reaction pretty firm.
Okay, if you see somebody and it's like, okay, 5 seconds and then they fade away, that's one thing. But what if they don't go away? And then you just have to like
walk around them.
Yeah.
Don't mind me just getting a picture here.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. And I hope I never have to find out what I would do in that scenario.
Yeah.
All right. I've saved the best Bloody Lane haunting for last.
Okay.
Right. Now, I don't have like a specific year of this.
Okay.
But on this particular day, there were some 7th grade students from a boys' school in Baltimore. They were visiting the battlefield on a field trip, and they had, full day there. They had a tour of the area. They had demonstrations from reenactors, all kinds of stuff.
They had a big picnic.
Oh, yeah. The last stop on the tour was Bloody Lane. And before they got back on their bus to head home, the teacher asked each of them to kind of take a few moments, pick a spot alone, and just sort of reflect on everything that they had seen and learned that day. So the boys spread across the area, kind of around those split rail fences, had their little moment of reflection.
Stay out of the corn, children.
And then they got on the bus, and their teacher gave them an assignment, which I can't imagine. Like, as a former teacher, I can't imagine like wrapping up a field trip and then getting on the bus like, homework. But the teacher gave them an assignment.
When they're captive on the bus with you, that you have to do it.
Yeah. So this must have been like pre-cell phones and stuff, because otherwise forget it. Yeah. So he said, write, a short essay about your experience today and just what impressed you the most.
Okay.
So they all, they get to work writing.
What's impressive is that they did it immediately on the bus.
Yeah. So they write their essays, they turn them in. Not surprisingly, a number of the boys picked Bloody Lane as the most impressive part of the visit. I mean, we're talking about some preteen/teenage boys. The word bloody is in the name. It's pretty safe to say they'd be into it.
Yeah.
But as the teacher was reading the essays, he noticed that many of the boys referenced hearing sounds of chanting and Christmas carols during their reflection time at Bloody Lane. And this was especially evident in the essays of the boys who'd spent time around the Anderson Cannon Monument and the War Department Observation Tower.
Okay.
Now, your immediate thought is probably what mine was, like, obviously these boys are screwing with him. Again, teenage boys. They're playing a prank.
Uh-huh. And I'm guessing they were not there around Christmas time.
No.
Okay.
The only problem is that after their reflection time, they got right on the bus and, get to work on your essays. They didn't have time to like collaborate and come up with this little prank. So the next day in class, the teacher asks the boys to elaborate on the singing that they heard. And they said, oh, well, it sounded like a Christmas carol. Mm-hmm. Specifically, Deck the Halls, fa la 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 la.
Stop. Oh, I just got goosebumps. I was wondering why you said that earlier.
I was hoping I'd put enough distance between telling you that and this. So if anybody hasn't caught on, you may have forgotten the Gaelic battle cry that I mentioned earlier, Fa a Bala. And I should also mention that according to the story, the boys had not heard that specific phrase and portion of the story on their field trip. Oh, and the place where the boys who stood there had mentioned that the strongest in their essays, that's the exact place commemorating the doomed charge of the Irish Brigade.
I'm just imagining that teacher's butthole puckering.
I mean, why imagine it when I can fully just feel it myself? Like,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, that I thought that was a creepy one. But that is the hauntings of Antietam Battlefield.
Spooky.
Yeah.
I want to go, but spooky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice battlefield and beautiful. So, recommend. I've been twice. I'm sure I'll go again.
I think the only battlefield I've been to was maybe Gettysburg.
Did it have a billion statues in it?
I don't think we went to it proper. It was next to a campground or something that we were staying at. I remember there were several cannons, but we didn't do the official tour. Because I was pretty young.
Gettysburg is legitimately statues for days all over the place.
I don't know. I was pretty young. I might have been to multiple. Maybe I'm getting them confused. Surely as a school trip, I would have gone to one.
Yeah. As a semi-professional battlefield visitor, a lot of them look pretty similar.
A lot of rolling fields. Split rail fences. Maybe those little stone walls, some cannons, various plaques about people who died there. Yeah.
You can count on all those.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. They know what the people want. They want a certain vibe.
What the people are there for.
Yeah. So that is it. I'm sure I'll call upon Jerry's knowledge in future episodes as well. So it's probably not the last battlefield or war-related thing that we'll hear from me.
No, for sure. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I don't have any questions. You've answered everything. It was pretty sound. All right. Well, thank you for listening. If you have any spooky experiences at a battlefield, I just forgot the word for battlefield.
At a war happening place.
At a battlefield, then you can send them in to us if you just want to talk about them or if you want us to share them on the podcast. We still haven't given up the idea of sharing your stories. So you can email us at egagspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can message us on all of our social medias at egags podcast. Thank you again for tuning in, and as always, this is Everybody's Got a Ghost Story.
What's yours?